Howdy folks, welcome to another episode of the Rightful Truth channel. Hope you're all doing well. This video is going to be about radicalization. How do you radicalize people? And I think it's happening in plain sight. It's not even being hidden. It's happening in plain sight. That's how you don't see it happen. I think a lot of people out there are looking at the world and going, what the hell is going on? This is turning into a crazy place. This is not normal. And I have to admit, is I kind of a little bit worried about what's going on in the world and the way people are behaving. Now, there's a couple of things that may be useful to help you try to understand why things are happening in the way that, or in the fashion that they are. It's kind of this the social engineering, this behavioral conditioning, this radical programming, this cognitive dissonance that is going on within Canada, within North America. And people are behaving very unhealthy. So a big part of this, I mentioned already, this cognitive dissonance is, I'll give you a definition, I've got it written down here. Cognitive dissonance, psychological stress experienced by a person who holds two or more contradictory beliefs, ideas, or values. A person who holds two or more contradictory beliefs, ideas, or values. The discomfort is triggered by a situation in which a person's belief clashes with new evidence perceived by the person. When confronted with facts that contradict beliefs, ideas, and values, people will find a way to resolve the contradiction to reduce their discomfort. For example, if somebody keeps telling you that 2 plus 2 equals 5, you know it's not true, but they keep telling you it over and over and over again, you will eventually come to accept that 2 plus 2 equals 5 just to get that person out of the room, just to agree with them and get them out. But at the same time, you ask yourself, what did I rationalize that and actually agree with them, just to get them out of the room? And I think some people actually just come to eventually accept that 2 plus 2 equals 5. Now there's this hierarchy that I think a lot of people would be interested in reading about, and I'll put a little graph up here for you. Well, I'll try to, at least anyways, called Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You can read the definition up in Wikipedia. It takes 2 seconds. But essentially it's a study of how humans intrinsically partake in behavioral motivation. Maslow identifies that in order to motivate people, you need to threaten 4 aspects of their life. You need to threaten it. You need to place it in harm's way. And then you'll be able to self-actualize them and radicalize them. So, for example, you need to threaten their physiological condition, their health, their mental well-being, their physical well-being. You need to threaten their sense of safety. You need to threaten their sense of belonging. You need to their social world, and you need to threaten their self-esteem. And once you're able to achieve these 4 things, you'll be able to radicalize and actualize them. And depending on how should we say, concentrated their actualization will be, will depend on how badly you've threatened them in those 4 aspects of their lives. So let's look at some real life examples as to what's going on in the world today. So, threatening your health, threatening your physiological condition, your health. For example, you can tax them. You can tax people. They're basically beasts of burden. You tax their income. You tax what they choose to spend their money on, and you socially engineer them that way. For example, right now the price of food is significantly high, and one of the reasons why the price of food is significantly high is because of the price of fuel. The price of fuel and the taxes placed on fuel. Everybody is paying through the nose in order to even be able to feed themselves. Okay? That invokes worry, your ability to sustain your family, to pay your taxes. And when you invoke worry and stress, you invoke an unhealthy population. For example, in just the neighboring community of Prince Rupert, they just lifted a boil water advisory. It's now mid-March. They just lifted a boil water advisory, which had been in place since mid-December 2018. It only just now got lifted. So I mean, between Prince Rupert which is not a small town. It's a deep sea port. There's a lot of people living there, and they've been under a boil water advisory for many months. And it's not just places like that. It's our First Nation communities too, under boil water advisories. Their health, their health safety is at risk. And you know, so many of these things have been promised to be rectified during the next election by the Liberals through promised infrastructure spending, which has never arrived. I mean, I guess the government gave that money to Indonesia because they want to get in with the UN. So our own citizens are being placed at risk because of these choices for foreign investment rather than domestic investment. So, your health. If you can place a person's health at risk, that's one of the steps. You can threaten their safety. Now, this is another one of the steps. Well, for example, I mean, these things are cumulative. I mean, the concerns build up. They're like layers of a cake, or peeling back layers of an onion. You consistently, layer upon layer upon layer, threaten people's safety. They will eventually self-actualize as well. For example, welcoming ISIS terrorists back into Canada. For another one would be Bill C-75, a Liberal bill that is a massive omnibus bill which proposes to impact a variety of legislation, including the Criminal Code, the Youth Criminal Justice Act, the Controlled Drugs and Substances Act, the Supreme Court Act, and 9 other pieces of legislation. And they propose to turn indictable offenses into summary offenses on a broad scale. What this essentially means is that the Liberals propose to convict violent criminals and let them out of jail back into your communities on shorter sentences. Does that sound like good management to you? Release the violent criminals back into your communities. And then it's cognitive dissonance, they'll blame the gun owners for it, even though they have nothing to do with it. Speaking of which, it's Bill C-71, a Liberal bill to punish law-abiding gun owners for the behaviors of criminals. If anything, it rewards criminal behavior because it takes resources away from actual policing and crime fighting. And it focuses those resources on law-abiding gun owners. It's cognitive dissonance, telling you 2 + 2 = 5. Another one that will impact your safety is climate change. This surreal fear of the world burning up, and floods, and the oceans rising, and so on. They're going to tax you through a carbon tax framework that will make it more difficult for you to be able to heat your home in the wintertime, which affects your shelter, it affects the economy, it affects your safety. We're talking about things like this. I mean, it's also bad trade deals with the United States and Mexico. We went into those negotiations negotiating gender equity rather than trade deals. And we signed on as an afterthought. And it wasn't built for us. It wasn't built for Canada. It was built for Mexico and the United States. So we have bad trade deals. Your safety has been placed in jeopardy. Your well-being has been placed in jeopardy. Another layer of the cake is love and belonging. So this war on traditional families, traditional family values. For example, feminists are now saying that taking a family name is considered a form of discrimination. Now, men don't normally ask for much, and for some, taking a name is a test to determine whether the female is serious, or the male is serious, right? Now, I know that some disagree, but in my family, we've taken the same name, and we know that we're on the same team. We are a tribe, right? They're trying to break up that unit. It's traditional family values. Now, political correctness is another one of the ways of affecting love and belonging. It's decimating friendships. It's decimating families. Churches used to do this. It used to be you'd send your kid off to church and they'd come back radicalized. And they wouldn't want to be with the family because, even though the family was nothing wrong with the family, the church had indoctrinated that child to make them think that the family was not worthy because they're sinners. Right? So this political correctness essentially does the same thing, guilting you into not saying things or to adopting behavior that is not you. It's a form of cognitive dissonance. A war on human rights, for example, is another one. So I started to go on about feminists, but feminists have been defending the hijab and the niqab for staunchly defending it as a female's right, while at the same time allowing Sharia law to blossom in their communities. Meanwhile, Iranian lawyer Nasrin Sotoudeh, who defends women's right to remove the hijab, gets 38 years and 148 lashes in Iran. Why aren't the feminists defending her? Her choice. Females' choices in Iran. Cognitive dissonance. They're doing the opposite. They're fighting for it. A war on national identity. A war on unity. Divide and conquer. So your love, belonging, your feeling of home, your security, you attack that. That's one of the other layers. The last and final layer is called self-esteem. Censorship is rampant amongst the social media giants today. You're not allowed to say certain things, or you'll be censored. You'll be propped up on a pedestal and embarrassed in front of the entire world. Overwhelming left bias and censorship of almost everything that is conservative or liberty-based. It's a war on self-sufficiency, your self-esteem. You need a permit to do almost everything now. You need permission from government. We are totally overregulated, and that affects self-esteem, your individual freedom. A war on integrity. Why work hard when I can sit back and just accept the dole? It's a lack of self-respect. It's a lack of self-integrity and adopting the welfare state. Self-esteem is under huge attack. Now, those are the four main pieces of the puzzle for Maslow's hierarchy. Once you've achieved that, once you have demoralized a population's health, their safety, their social acceptance, their belonging, their self-esteem, you'll radicalize them. You'll motivate them to take some form of action. You manifest an insurgency when the nation-state becomes a paranoid, narcissistic people suffering from intense cognitive dissonance. And when you make the people sick, when you make them malevolent, bitter, and entitled, your country will collapse under an insurgency. Until we have a Canada-centric policy, our country will continue to spiral down into chaos. And that means we need unity and we need leadership, something we desperately need right now. What a bummer, eh? Right after sending out, I hope you guys are doing better than I am right now. Reading this stuff, it's not pleasant, but we need to face it. Step outside of the cognitive dissonance and look at the world under a fresh microscope. Maple Leaf up.